This is Indian History Thali by Thali, where we ask archaeologists and historians how they know what they know about India's past. In this series, we will focus on Indian history through the lens of food. Rice, you've all eaten it, maybe with dal, sambar, or gravies, or maybe as biryani or pulao. How and when did rice become so dominant in thalis and bowls in India? In this episode, we focus on medieval Kerala and Odisha, two regions where rice is the staple food in diet today. We explore commonalities and differences in the histories, society, and foods of these two places. And we look at temple foods to see what they can tell us about society in medieval Kerala and Odisha. Let's begin by going back in time to more than 1,000 years ago, when forests were cut down and converted into fields.
When you come to southern Odisha, particularly the Ganjam district, we have close to 50 copper plate inscriptions from 600 to 1000 CE. And most of these people were the Yajurvedi Brahmanas of the Vajasnehi, that is the Shukla Yajurvedis. Now, they were responsible substantially for clearing the forests in this region.
In Kerala too, Brahmins were responsible for creating paddy fields.
Brahmins who occupied the alluvial delta, certainly the red soil area very close to that, and they had to take the forced labor from the forest dwellers and people in the fringe area. It's waterlogged. So people were to be subjected to hard labor to clear the various waterborne plants and so on, and also cutting channels to allow the water to flow. In various ways, they had to prepare the delta suitable for agriculture.
We know this thanks to a close reading of Keralolpati, a story about how Parashurama came to Kerala from Ahichatra along with a group of Brahmins.
Keralolpati as a written text might belong to a period much later, but the early part of this chronicle was certainly an oral composition. Otherwise, Keralolpati should be dated, and I mean the content of Keralolpati, particularly the early part, to 7th century, 8th century period. Now, if you read Keralolpati from this point of view, you will have a picture of the mobilization of labor. And then looking at the landscape, you can imagine the kind of labor required for preparing the inhospitable delta.
This was also a time when there was a spurt in temple building. Some medieval temples quickly grew into large, sprawling complexes that dominated the cultural and social life of towns and cities. Even today, the Jagannath Temple in Puri employs 300 potters and 600 cooks. What does the food cooked in the temple kitchens reveal about culinary practices in medieval Odisha?
The cuisine in the Puri temple would include rice. It would include lentils, that is pigeon peas mostly, and pigeon peas. There are two varieties of preparing it. One is sweet and the other is salty. And then a few vegetable recipes, which is broadly called tarkari, and a wide range of sweets made of rice and dairy products. Now, over 3/4 of the 56 delicacies in the Puri temple actually had sugar in it. Now, this was an expensive affair. This was a really expensive affair. Actually, the 15th century Chinese traveler Wang Dayuan says that one could buy 46 baskets of rice for a single cowrie shell, which is about 300 kgs, enough to feed two adults for a whole year. Now, that's not the case with sugar.
Sugar was expensive. Whereas you could pay for rice with a cowrie shell, you had to pay for sugar in silver coins. And in Kerala,
Brahmin-controlled temples started using as part of their offerings mainly paddy and rice. And the main two sources that we have, one is Varapalli copper plate of 9th century, and another is a Tiruvalla copper plate. and in both you have preponderance of rice items. Only the ruling class and the Brahmin landlords had the habit of consuming rice. About the people outside the temple, we have the ordinary people depending upon fish heavily, and then turtle and various such reptiles, including crocodile. And then people in the forests and the fringe area, depending upon wild boar, various small animals, and so on. Ordinary people still continued as the people depending upon millets and also various legumes.
When the Portuguese arrived in India, they brought with them many new foods and vegetables. How did this impact the foods cooked in homes and in temples?
The cuisines don't use any food stuff introduced in India during and after the 16th century. That is with the coming of the Europeans, the food itself undergoes rapid changes. The culinary practices undergo changes, but this is not reflected in the Puri temple. The Vedic people, for example, seem to have been far more inclusive in matters concerning food. Soma was part of rituals and ceremonies, and so was meat. Yudhishthira hosts a meal for 10,000 Brahmanas, according to the Sabhaparva of the Mahabharata. And the things served include Mamsair Varaha Harinai, that is pork and venison. Now, the Puri temple, of course, has fish, but a number of grains and a number of lentils that was present in earlier times are not there now. Look, for example, the Chamakam of the Sri Rudram in the Yajurveda. It mentions a wide variety of foodstuffs. Now, Vrihayashchame, Yavaschame, Mashashchame, Tilaschame, Mudgaschame, Khalvaschame. So there is reference to rice, there is reference to barley, wheat, another variety of rice which is still grown in Kerala, that is Nyavara, Nivar as it is called in Sanskrit. There is little millet or Sama as it is called in Hindi. And then there's proso millet, foxtail millet. All these things disappear from the temple food in the 14th, 15th century.
But why?
But when it comes to Odisha, I think it also has to do with the kind of soil that you have there, rich alluvial soil, which doesn't allow for widespread growth of things such as millets, for instance, or not many varieties of legumes are grown there. So that could be one reason, but there could be prejudices as well, caste-centered prejudices.
Were temple foods available to all people?
In the 15th and 16th century, a number of caste groups were not allowed entry into the temple or partake of the temple food. Now, this also provoked resistance, particularly from the Vaishnava saints, the Bhakti saints of the period. So one of them, the Balaramadasa, composed a text called the Lakshmi Purana, which is basically a scathing critique of untouchability. And the whole thing revolves around the question of commensality. The text ends with a promise which Lakshmi extracts from her husband, Krishna, that is Jagannatha, that from now onwards, everybody from the Brahmana to the Chandala will be allowed to enter the temple, and everybody will eat from the same pot. Now we are not sure if things changed after Balaramidasa's critique, and if it did change, the change did not last for long, because we know from the colonial archive that as many as 19 different groups were not allowed allowed entry into the temple even in the mid 19th century.
So, from critically analyzing stories, inscriptions, texts, traveler accounts, and ethnography, historians have pieced together the histories of migration and creation of paddy fields in both early medieval Kerala and Odisha. Rice became a prominent part of temple offerings in both regions, while people outside of temple economies continued to eat foods including millets and meats. Over time, temple foods became progressively less diverse and also resisted new introductions. Meanwhile, common people adopted foods introduced by the Europeans. Like today, foods on medieval thalis and in bowls reflected journeys, exchanges, and choices made hundreds of years ago.